Go
That,
live, young man. Again, I say this like every show. I could do it with my eyes closed. I think we're live. We need to check and make sure.
well, strangely, I immediately got a Twitter, wait a minute, an X notification.
Yeah, I'm so confused about that. I mean, I'm all for Elon taking over Twitter, of course, but this whole rebranding it to X thing and it's going to be this Swiss Army knife of software. I don't know.
I don't know. Maybe he's on to something, but I don't know. It's going to take me some getting used to. And why X? X doesn't make any sense to me.
Uh,
I don't get it.
Either he must have registered that domain back years ago and kept it for cheap, or they paid a lot of money for it. I don't know. Where did he even get X.com? Because apparently you redirected X.com to Twitter. It's so confusing.
I don't know. I don't know. Well, I'm looking at the live video and it shows us being froze, but apparently we're not froze. Maybe it's
Uh
just on my
oh.
screen.
No, let me see. Let me hold the phone up here and let's do this and we'll get some feedback as I turn the volume up. No, I think we're good.
Okay. Well, hey,
At
Val
least,
Baker is there, says hi.
yeah. Somebody's watching. He's coming in from YouTube, so that's a good sign.
Yeah, and I see the numbers. Hey, folks, let us know who's out there. I mean, I can't see who's on the show. I mean, Rex, I think can, but I can't see who's there. Let's hear from y'all who's here this evening, and we've got some pretty good stuff to share out tonight. You know,
Yeah.
things that you didn't know. We're going to follow up and segue off of last week's show.
Hmm.
Because pretty much all the events that have happened since last week's show all stem from the events of last week.
Yeah, they do, and it's kind of we're in between meetings of the city council and the police jury and all that sort of thing, and so there weren't any big bombs, so to speak, political bombs this week, but some definite interesting information. And I've named the show Off the Cuff, which is literally what we're doing. I mean, no notes, no nothing. We're just winging it again.
We are winging it. That's true, and that is the appropriate term for this show. Is off the cuff. It almost seems like that's how our government works in Bossier Parish. Just off the cuff, willy nilly. Hey, we'll we'll just try it as we go.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I don't think everything is off the cuff. In fact, when it comes to maybe the Bossier City Attorney, I would say that some of his actions are not just off the cuff.
Uh,
We'll get into that.
the wily little fellow that Jacobs is, well, yeah, we'll get to that. All right. Well, let's go ahead. You want to go ahead and go straight into our countdown and all that? Now, full disclosure, I did refresh the countdown a little bit. So, folks, y'all want to maybe pay a little attention to some of the clips. I've got a few new clips in there. Duke, I think you might find some of them a little bit amusing.
I'm sure that I will. And hey, remind everybody to help us out. I mean, we want to try
Yes.
to inform as many people, around Bossier as possible as to what's going on in their community. And the best way to do that is for you to share this show. So that's another part of this countdown is to give you time to do it.
Yep. All right. Well, I'm going to go ahead and hit the countdown. We'll be back to talk about term limits, the Cypress District, who is Rodney, and, well, anything else that we can think of. We'll be right back. Y'all tag and share.
If folks knew a lot of the back office on the politicians that they think walk on water, they would be shocked. There's an old wound from a knife in my back that just is giving me heck lately, and it's just really irritating. So I have to kind of wiggle around a little bit.
Well, I've not heard my name in stable or Baton Rouge in stable in the same sentence in a long time.
And I titled it A Shot Across the Bow of the Good Old Boys.
Just, they feel helpless, they don't feel heard, they have nowhere to turn.
Some Republicans as well believe that government has the answers. And let me tell y'all something. I don't know anything government does well. Nothing.
Aren't there laws that say that you have public meetings so that the public can have accountability of their elected officials?
They're making a little bit of progress, but I would definitely have to give give the race to Caddo Parish right now.
I don't know. Is there anybody from Plain Dealing watching, you think?
As a member of the media, I'm very concerned about what I've just heard.
Did you or did you not requisition some money to fight against this or for it?
We hired a lobbyist, and it cost us $15,000. We were opposed to HB 630.
So for this week, folks, the cockroach of the week, according to Bossier Watch and Duke Lowry and Rex Moncrief, is
Raymond Cruz legislative assistant, Allie Feaster Smith. Thank you, Allie.
Well, I'm not thinking Star Wars at all. I'm thinking zombie apocalypse.
No way.
Okay,
It was not
okay.
David. You know it wasn't David Montgomery. David ain't gonna jump off in there with Chris. He ain't
Okay.
gonna do it. He'd as soon spit on him as he would even look at him. Man, this is a Mickey D's Krispy Kreme week. Didn't you know? Who's paying y'all? And if you're driving on the roads, are you safe?
It's on the road, yeah.
Well, I know you're on the road, but I mean, is this all folks coming from the border down there?
Yeah, it's going to border. It's actually going to Mexico and buses.
Doesn't mean they interpret it the same way that I do. For instance, the Second Amendment. I take it very literally. That's been interpreted different ways in the court system all the way up to SCOTUS. Yeah, that's only going to cause more division that he claims he doesn't want to cause. And it's only going to cause more suspicion. We're still right now combined on both pages and YouTube at 264 people watching. That is amazing, folks. Coleman Project, the Walker Place deal, through conscious, shocking action. The purpose of their actions was to stop plaintiffs, being the Ewell, Coleman, and associated groups and all that, from developing Walker Place. But here's the key thing, which in turn would enrich sitting city council members Scott Irwin and David Montgomery Jr.
You hit the button. Does that mean that people are seeing us sitting here talking and chatting?
In theory, it's an every week thing. We got to double check and make sure it's like a miracle any of this actually works. This Bossier Watch live broadcast is brought to you by the Outdoor News, fishing and outdoors for our area. Acadiana Mortgage, over 23 years in the mortgage business. Pelican Training and Consulting. Smarter Geek, making technology easier. And the many supporters, donations, and folks sharing information and watching out for Bossier. Now, grab your popcorn and a drink. Here we go.
I did.
All right.
All right.
Well,
So, look, Rex, as you know, I made a little trip down to South Texas. Not South Texas. I mean, Jasper. I mean, it's kind of South Texas. Hemp Hills, around that area down there. Toledo Bend.
headed towards South Texas anyway.
Well, yeah. I had to make a little money to feed the kids and, make mama happy. So I had to go do a little work. And, hey, I got to tell you, being gone down there, it was hot. It was hot, but it got me to kind of feeling like I wanted to get healthy again and go jogging and swimming and all that stuff. And I thought, well, when I get back home, I might just go enter that triathlon out there at the lake.
Oh, well, there may be a problem with that. I don't know. It's kind of confusing. So apparently if you're not aware since you've been gone, but apparently there was a problem. Now there's not a problem. I don't know. It's like Robert Berry whined and cried and took his toys out of the sandbox and then decided to play. I don't know. It's so confusing.
Well, look, we said that we recognized a problem, and part of you changing that intro was, I think, to bring attention to the problem and enlighten people. And I think we are guilty of a lot of times we start telling a story and people don't know what we're talking about. They think we're talking Greek because they don't know the backstory. We'll take a little shot or two, and people don't understand it.
Yeah, and I think one of the things we're going to try to do in our spare time that we both have so much of, by the way, but I think it'll help us and the viewers is to consolidate and come up with, I don't know, whether I want to call them bullet points or lists or a list of main points on all these various subjects and topics so that we can refer back to that list, and it'll help keep us a little more organized and also help out the viewers. And we can publish that on Facebook or on the website or both or on YouTube. I mean, it won't be that difficult to do.
So this triathlon thing and the Cypress district. So how did we get here to us not having a triathlon? We're going to have a triathlon, and then now we're not going to have a triathlon. Real quick, for those of you that may not have known or you're not informed, real quick, Rex.
Well, apparently, as a matter of fact, let me just go ahead and switch screens here. I think I've got it pulled up. So there was this post from Sports Spectrum, and I realize the type may be a little small for some of you watching, and for those of you listening to the podcast, it says, "It is with very disappointed hearts that we are forced to cancel this year's Iron Fish and River Cities Triathlon." Now, this is 4 days ago. And they've got a little breaking news meme and all that. So much planning goes into making this incredible race every year, and unforeseen issues arose with respect to our venue that will prevent us from producing the race this year. Now, this was 4 days ago. I wonder what unforeseen, but it's not really unforeseen, but what issues could have arisen with their venue? Because the venue is the Cypress Park.
Oh, I don't know. Maybe it's because Robert Berry, the only human on the face of the earth able to facilitate, any activity taking place at the Cypress district, didn't get reappointed.
Well, maybe so, but I mean, he still has a job technically as of right now. Well, we'll get into that in a minute. But anyway, he still has a job up until July 31st. I mean, he's still the appointed commissioner for the Bossier Parish Police Jury. And, you would think maybe he could work something out with Sports Spectrum, or, I mean, look, I wouldn't even be opposed to Sports Spectrum paying him to manage it, even though he's not employed with the Cypress district. I actually wouldn't have a problem with that.
Yeah, no, I don't either. I don't think I would as well. But the thing is, he did on his own notify Sports Spectrum that we're going to cancel this triathlon. But I have to believe that the rest of the Cypress District Board jumped in and said, "Well, hey, we don't have somebody at the park that can direct this thing. We just need to cut it off." And
well,
let me say this, in typical fashion of government and piss on the people, piss on all their money, piss on all the people from out of town that bought hotel rooms and all that. No regard for those folks. No.
Yeah, but they're breaking rule number 1. Always have a backup. I mean, what's the backup plan? In all seriousness. So let's say I was the executive director for the park, and for the past 10 years of the 40 years that this event is going on, I wonder what they did the first 30 years. Anyway.
Look, Robert Berry was the backup, Rex. He was the 3 men in one. Remember, they told us that. He does the job of 3 or 4 people and finds time to bring park equipment on his private property to work on his stuff.
Now, Val Baker says, did the police jury just put a new person in his job? Now, let's be clear about this, Val. The police jury appointed Rodney Madden as their new commissioner for the police jury's appointment. Now, Robert Berry is still the executive director out there, and the Cypress district decides who the executive director is if they're going to have one. So we don't know what they're going to do about that. That's actually not on the police jury. Well, we might know what they're going to do about it. We might have to discuss that.
We've got a theory, but I think, Rex, probably a lot of people are saying, who is Rodney Madden? Who's Rodney Madden? So,
well, before we get to Rodney though, now, so then like the next day, Sports Spectrum launched this announcement on their Facebook page. We know this is chaotic and back and forth, but here's the deal. We're going to race. After many phone calls and sorting through miscommunications and misinformation. Now, where have we heard that term misinformation and miscommunication before. That sounds like those pesky lawyers from the Ayers law firm.
Sure enough, sure enough. But the thing is I'm wondering what changed. What changed? I mean, look, Robert Berry and the Cypress district have been hell bent on not doing, the will of the people. They could care less and fighting tooth and nail. Why would they make this change? What
I,
happened?
I mean, it should have been crystal clear, but anyway, they say they have come to an agreement with their venue to have the Iron Fish and River Cities Triathalon. We know how passionate this race is to many people, blah, blah, blah. We never wanted the race canceled in the first place, but after some extra work, we've made it work. I'll expect to see Robert Berry in his Superman suit anytime now.
Well, maybe Madden, maybe he had some influence on it. Newly incoming, not even in there yet. But a lot of people are probably wondering, well, who is Madden?
Right.
And why don't we tell them first?
Yeah, well, as a matter of fact, let's let Rodney himself tell them. Now, I've shared the same video on the Facebook page, but for those of you that don't, if I can talk tonight, for those of you that don't know,
spit it out, brother.
Spit it out. This is Rodney Madden.
My name is Rodney Madden. I'm a candidate for the Cypress Back Bayou Committee. I appreciate y'all taking the time and giving me an opportunity to speak to you today. One of the questions that was asked to me is, why would I want to do this? I go back to this lake as long as this lake has been there since its conception. My parents bought property in the early 70s. We watched it dig. I've been able to watch this thing go from conception to where we are now, which is awesome. I mean, I want to commend the board and Robert and everyone that's on there now. They brought this thing from one place to another place, and it's an awesome ambassador for our parish. I think there's some things that need to change. We need to get in there and dig around and maybe make a few changes, just because it's a new time. We're all going through a new time since these last few years economically and everything. I've been fortunate to run a business for the last 20-something years. The Lord has blessed us with it. We've done well. I understand what it takes to work with the general public. I understand what it takes to work with employees. Just like on the board, I know a tremendous number of the commissioners or the police juries on the board. I know the commissioners on the Cypress Back Bayou board already. So I feel like I can go in there and look as a new set of eyes and say, look, guys, these are some things we might want to change. We need to look at to go forward to make this a better park than what it is now, to keep this thing going from where y'all brought it in the past to the future. We all have to go through change, and that's sometimes it's easy, sometimes it's not. I just think there's opportunities that a fresh face can bring to there, and I think I have those abilities to work with everyone to make those changes. Once we get in there and examine, then we know what needs to be changed. But until then, we're just looking from the outside in, and I want to be inside, not outside. Thank you.
Thank you, Rodney.
Now, I just want to point out a couple of things. In full disclosure, Rodney is a client of mine, and I've bought lots of tires and, had vehicle work done. He owns Mosley's Tire up there. So full disclosure on that. I think Rodney's a good guy. I mean, I know him to be a good guy. Kind of interesting that he said he wanted to be on the inside, though, but I think we know what he meant.
Yeah, well, I mean, look, I don't think he is a super political guy. So
No, he's not.
We'll cut him a little slack. But I got to tell you, do I think he's going to go in there and kick over tables? I got my doubts. I got to tell you, I got my doubts. It sounded, I mean, maybe he was just being nice, but I don't know. We'll see.
Well, interesting point I want to bring up. Do you remember, or did you happen to watch the police jury meeting, or remember when we rolled the clip that Andy Monica got up there, because he had turned in his resume or whatever, and he said that, basically the fix was in.
Well, wait a minute. I want to address that too.
Okay.
So he didn't say the fix was in.
Well, I put a few words.
He said he knows that the decision has already been made.
Right.
And of course, some of them said, well, I didn't know that. Well,
okay.
I mean, look.
But that's what let me let you finish your
Had
thought. But
he been
remember who said that.
had he counted the votes to know that they liked somebody else that had their name in the
Mhm.
hat? I mean, maybe it may have been as simple as that.
Right. Well, it may have been. And look, this is no slight on Rodney at all because he's a friend of mine, or kind of a friend of mine anyway. But it's interesting that Doug Rimmer, of course, he's current president of the police jury, but Rimmer is the one that said, and I'm paraphrasing a little bit, that said, "Oh, well, that's news to me. We didn't know the fix was in." Guess who shot the earthquake footage with Rodney? Doug Rimmer.
Well, Doug isn't always on top of his game. We'll just leave it at that. But on that
The
whole
tax
vote,
man cometh.
on that whole thing, the interesting vote was Juliana Parks. She voted against Rodney Madden.
Yes, she did. There were 2 votes against Rodney. I don't. Did I? Do I have that screenshot queued up here? Hold on just a second.
Yeah, because a lot of folks may want to know they didn't catch it. You had to be on top of your game, and actually we were on top of our game and caught it. But Juliana voted against Rodney Madden.
Yeah, there we go. And so this is thanks to Renee Hall. She shared this out on her phone to us. But anyway, you can see the yes votes down there. So Marsiglia, Gray, Cochran, Jordan, Brotherton, and Phillip voted yes. I'm sorry, Gray voted no. Gray voted no. Rimmer voted yes. Benton was not there. Darby voted yes. Salzer voted yes. Juliana voted no.
Yeah, so you have to wonder, from that meeting, Mr. Gray wanted to, just postpone and not take any action. Juliana Parks made some comment, about reviewing the qualifications
Right.
or something to that effect, which led to, Mr. Irwin just, I would say, laying the wood to Machota and Ayers law firm.
Yes.
And I'm inclined to believe that Gray, Parks, and Plummer all wanted Robert Berry to go back in there.
Well, that might dovetail into our information that we're going to share here in a little bit with a public information request that has not been fulfilled. So that would dovetail right into it. And look, folks, I posted the police jury segment on the Robert Berry, or the reappointment of Robert Berry, or not, as the case was. It's up on the Facebook page. So if you want to go back and watch that, it's about 45 minutes or an hour, but it's very interesting because you actually get to hear from Lee Ayers, from Ron Machota, and then, like you said, Irwin spoke up and actually sounded like the adult in the room.
Yeah,
but anyway.
no doubt about it. So
Yeah.
I guess everybody just assumes that, and they're all drinking margaritas and, high-fiving that Robert Berry's gone.
Ding dong, the witch might not be dead that fast.
Yeah, not so fast, Dano, as they said in one of those old crime shows.
Yeah.
As fate would have it, Rex, there appears to be a path for Robert Berry to retain the executive director job out at the park.
Wait, what?
It appears that there is a path for Robert Berry to continue to be the executive director and stay on the board.
Now, interestingly, we've been kind of bantering back and forth about this for a while. So enlighten us what that path may be. And I'm going to go ahead and hit publish and back to live mode. Okay. So set up your breadcrumb trail here. This is a public request that we sent 6 days ago to the mayor's office, or to Jacobs, because it has to go through him, for copies of a particular resignation. So I'll leave it at that. And now, Duke, why don't you pick up and lay the breadcrumbs?
Well, the breadcrumbs are that, about the time that the term limits petition was turned into the mayor's office, and y'all all saw that, we learned, and we reported it on whichever show that was, that week. We reported that, allegedly Walt Bigby had went to the mayor's office and was resigning. So, fast forward to now, the police jury doesn't reappoint Robert Berry, and you have this vacancy in the Bossier City. Well, in theory, Bossier City could reappoint Robert Berry to the city seat, the city appointee, and he could continue to be the executive director at the park.
That's
And
one possible deal.
that's one possible. The other possible is if Charles Jacobs was to drag this thing out intentionally, because what the law says is that if the appointing authority, and it was the law that the Cypress district fought, spent your tax dollars to hire a lobbyist to fight Dodie Horton's bill, which brought accountability to the Cypress district. If the appointing authority, I think it is 30 days, if they don't take any action, then the decision of who to fill that vacant seat of Walt Bigby's, if he resigned, falls back to none other than the Cypress district themselves, which would be Gary White, Fowler, and that new female attorney out there that's partners with one of the judges and buddies with Jacobs. So Robert Berry's right back in to go. The $1 million question here is Tommy Chandler and Charles Jacobs going slow walking this thing to enable the Cypress district to reappoint Robert Berry?
Yeah, so let me get that deal out of the way because I want you to see 6 days ago we sent in the request for a copy of his resignation letter, blah, 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 and all that. Yesterday, and now that was 6 days ago, including the weekend. Yesterday was the legal time that Jacobs had to at least respond, so it's 3 business days. So Jacobs responded yesterday.
You make it sound like he cares about the law.
Oh, well, look, I'm trying to give him, I don't know why, but I'm trying to give him the benefit of the doubt tonight.
Okay, okay, go ahead.
Anyway, he responded back that he would like 10 days to complete the response. Now, how long could it possibly take to get a copy of the resignation letter?
Or confirm it.
I mean, pretty much he just confirmed it there without confirming it.
If he confirms it, then that means we would know that they had to take action.
Well, that's true. So he's just letting it, drizzle and drip out. This is going to be interesting. It's like,
well, here's the other question. Does Tommy know? Has Jacobs shared it with Tommy?
Oh, that's interesting.
Is Tommy a part of this calculation?
That's interesting. Now we're asking the right question. Well, sources say. Anyway, so there you have it, folks. I mean, what do y'all think? Again, look, I don't care if Robert Berry, I mean, he's done some stuff, but I don't care if he goes out there and helps out with the triathlon. I don't care if Sports Spectrum pays him outside of being the executive director to help run the thing. I don't know. Maybe he does a great job at it. Somebody said he basically just makes sure the gate's open. I don't care if he does or not. That's not the point. The point is the monkey business and the shenanigans that are apparently going on again. What is it with this guy?
It would seem, well, which guy? There's so many of them.
Yeah, but specifically Robert Berry.
Yeah, specifically. Well, hey, did you hear that they Walter Bigby Carriageway, they're renaming it?
Wait, what?
Yeah, the Walter Bigby Carriageway, the big bridge at Manchac.
Yeah, the one that they had to close down part of Shed Road and all that, and historic roadway. And oh, wait, they're also spending, now correct me if I'm wrong, $300,000 of city taxpayer dollars to put a monument up?
Yeah, that one.
Okay.
That one. Yeah, that one. They gotta have the first monument here in Bossier City of somebody over there.
For Walt O. Bigby Sr., I guess, that's Walt Bigby's dad, literally the guy we were just talking about. It's a $300,000 monument for his dad. But
Yeah,
anyway, I digress.
that's right. But can you believe it? They're going to rename the parkway. I mean,
What are they? Nothing ceases to amaze me, but what are they going to rename it to?
well, from what I understand, they've decided upon the driveway to Benton.
I almost spit tea all over the keyboard. Do what?
The driveway to Benton.
Well, I
Because
guess it does help fast track people around. I don't know.
Well, I mean, look, they Jeff Free at that last council meeting was patting himself and everybody else on the back about how great of a job they were doing, and in essence, look what they're basically doing. They're basically fast tracking everybody through Bossier City, so you don't have to stop and spend no money, and just so they're trying to get you to Benton as fast as possible.
I didn't even think about that. That's a brilliant point.
I mean, I look, I knew they was sharp. I didn't know they was that sharp. I mean,
well, it just goes to show. Didn't I say there was a war between the North and the South in Bossier? And apparently, the North is going to win because they're fast tracking everything to North Bossier and Benton.
You better.
Oh, that didn't take long for a ding.
No, people are dinging. So, so the driveway to Benton and back to Charles Jacobs and the city of Bossier. So we've got a shenanigan going with the Bossier City appointee. Tommy Chandler may or may not be in it, and we got the thing with the term limits, and I got to tell you, the council and Jacobs, and I got to tell you, it's the mayor, it's his city attorney that is doing this whole deal. So I am stuttering here because I am trying to process what has just come across my radar.
We said this show was going to be off the cuff. I mean, it's got to be realistic. If we had everything scripted, it wouldn't be off the cuff.
Yeah. So yeah, and I'm stumbling, and I apologize.
All right. Let's change the course a little bit. So let's get off the city of Bossier for a second, and off the Cypress district, and off the police jury, and let's use something to bring us back to center. Let's talk about term limits again for a few minutes. And we really don't have much of an update, but there was a little press conference today for the Bossier Term Limits Coalition.
Oh, okay.
So, just to give you a report, because I know you were out driving and, having to feed the chillins. Colonel Crockett did have a call for a press conference today. Now, none of the city councilmen showed up. The mayor didn't show up, of course. I was shocked. I mean, color me really shocked. Vince Maggio didn't show up. But
wait a minute.
Yeah.
But Vince said he supported term limits. He put out a text or a Facebook post after the last meeting and said there was some miscommunication.
Well, he said, in like the last, I guess the last paragraph of that press release, he did share out. As a matter of fact, give me just a second. I'll get it pulled up on the screen here. He did share out that he kind of sort of supports term limits. I don't know. It was kind of a half-hearted deal. Hold on, and I'll get it put up there.
No, I'm pretty sure he said he supports term limits, but it's my understanding that when he was confronted with the petition at a gun show in Bossier, he said that he didn't support term limits and he refused to sign the petition.
He refused to sign the petition? Like flat out refused?
Refused to sign it. He was asked and he wouldn't sign it. Colonel Crockett, to my understanding, Colonel Crockett just commented.
Yeah. Here we go. Let me put it up on the screen. So Colonel Crockett says, for those of you listening, says, surprises me. I ran into Maggio at the gun show in Bossier City. When asked if he wanted to sign our petition, he commented, "Let the vote of the people will be his term limits." Well, that is kind of consistent with, where he stood with the other three good old boys at the city council meeting. But Colonel Crockett and Duke, did you know? Let me see if I can resize this thing. So I shared this in the Friends of Sobo, Friends of South Bossier page, and this was a post that was sent to us that Vince shared out, and it says, well, I can make my software cooperate here. Hold on. Dang it. All right. It says, friends, I want to take this opportunity to let you know about a misunderstanding. So we apparently misunderstood him. And probably miscommunication on my part at the council meeting. I don't know. Seemed pretty clear to me. For those of you who know me, I don't like division, dissension, or people trying to destroy others. That's saying something.
Is that us, or is that all of the people supporting term limits? You know, the majority of the citizens of Bossier.
Yeah, I mean, the numbers are pretty clear. I think it's what, 70, 80% nationwide. I'm sure it's going to be the same or maybe even higher in Bossier. And just, you know, based on the number of signatures that you guys got, it's a lot of people that support it.
It polled in the 80 and 90 percentile in Bossier. Remember, there was a poll that was ran. And
Yeah.
I mean, so if you support term limits, you're trying to destroy others and you're trying to be divisive and cause dissension.
Well,
Because
maybe it's the other way around. Maybe if you don't support term limits, you're trying to be divisive and cause dissension and destroy others. Maybe that's it. I mean, because we had a pretty diverse group this morning that showed up. People from the NAACP, the DPEC, the Republican
RPAC.
Party. Yeah.
Well, I mean, look, Jeff Free said that it was disrespectful. I mean, so all of you folks that support term limits in Bossier City and want this change, you know, you're being divisive, you're causing dissension, you're trying to destroy others, and you're being disrespectful for expressing a desire for something legislatively that you want within your city. And you're the bad guy. That's the way I read this. That's the way I read this, is that we're the bad guy and the public is the bad guys.
Well, I don't know. Now let's let Vince have his say here. So, you know, I'm going to channel my Vince Maggio here. Says, some may think this is part of being in the good old boy network. Wonder where he got that from. Or being a crony, but truthfully, it's not. I am not a puppet. Vince, when have you ever voted counter to what the good old boys vote? When have you ever actually, I'll challenge you this, and maybe I'm wrong, so folks, y'all can let me know in the comments. When has Vince ever even challenged the good old boys on the city council about anything?
Well, I would say if and look, Vince is a good guy. He is a good guy. He really
I'm
is.
sure
I mean,
he is.
he you know, he has done things within his community, helped people down there around his store that needed help. I mean, not taking any of that away from him. But the question you posed, what about the destruction of the NTB guys when Manchac and the city hall and all of them went to trying to destroy NTB and blame them for the screw up at the railroad crossing on Shed Road? I didn't hear anybody there on the council standing up, you know, to defend those guys. What about, you
Good
know,
point.
and Jeff Free says, you know, hey, everything's good. We've done such a great job. I mean, what about the guys out there at Red Rover? What about Jacobs out there trying to destroy them? I'm trying to recall if I heard any councilman speak up there. Where were you, Vince, for them, for that person? What about the lawsuit we showed last week, Rex?
Yeah.
You know, where Randy Matthews is saying that his constitutional rights in Bossier were violated. I haven't heard anybody speaking up there. I mean, and look, I got another lawsuit. Newsflash to everybody watching the show. We've got another lawsuit where somebody is alleging similar things on a city government in Bossier. And I haven't heard nobody speaking up about that.
Yeah. And look, the truth is, they're lawsuits, so they're allegations. But I don't know. It just seems to me like everybody wants to try to keep putting lipstick on the pig. And not that Bossier City's bad. I mean, I voluntarily live here. I happen to like Bossier City. Bossier City is relatively safe. I was having a conversation earlier today about the shenanigans that go on the other side of the river that don't typically make it over here. So it's not that I'm anti-Bossier City or the people in Bossier City, but some of this stuff keeps going on, and we see the same players and the same people and the same names. I mean, all the way stretching back to the UL Coleman debacle and even before.
So Mark Smith says maybe people that are constantly poking the fire are divisive. So I'm wondering, that's obviously us, because we keep poking the fire. We keep talking about these issues that are uncomfortable. We keep pointing out, double standards and all these things. I mean, I think, Mark, or what you and maybe what Vince is saying is that the public doesn't need to know. They have no right to know. They should just sit down, shut up, and these kinds of things, all this shouldn't even be talked about. They shouldn't express a desire for term limits. Nothing should be said.
Yeah, just go along, keep going along, which segues right into, we'll play it in a minute, but segues right into David Johnson's comments at the Bossier term limits deal today. We'll play that here in a minute. But let's continue on down Vince's pathway here a little bit. Notice that it's not until the last paragraph, let's see. So for those who think otherwise, I'm down in the bottom paragraph, which you might not can see on the screen. So for those who think otherwise, I am in support of term limits. I do not like to waste taxpayers' money. I like to ensure that what we do as a council is in accordance with the law. I respect the voices of the organizers on the charter change, and I would like to see this issue on the November ballot for all voters to consider. Now that's trying to have your cake and eat it too.
It is, and I think it is. I mean, especially if he did not or would not sign the petition when Colonel Crockett called me after that, and he told me, he said, I just ran into Vince at the gun show and he wouldn't sign the petition. So I don't doubt for 1 minute that Vince, but didn't, or refused. So here we are, and now he's trying to say it should be on the November ballot. But the reality is, they've all deferred to the city attorney to keep them from having to take a vote on this. They don't want to have to take a vote on it. So it's easy to jump out here and say, well, I want to see this on the ballot, especially if you're not going to get a chance to vote on it because it's not going to be put on the agenda. If you feel strongly about it and you believe in it, Vince, you need to come out strong and you need to say it.
Yeah, Vince, it literally would have taken you voting the other way. Well, let's see, they would have had to have one more vote, which they probably couldn't have gotten. But it would have taken you, at least you could have made a stance and made your stance crystal clear by voting with Smith and Hammonds and making your stance, again, like I said, crystal clear to the people that you don't want to delay the term limits. You want to expedite getting it in front of the people and let the people decide. And look, the fact is, I mean, the people may vote it down.
They may vote it down. Highly unlikely, and I think Jacobs knows it, and I think the other ones. And look, I don't want to keep beating Vince up on this.
Right.
Let's go to Tommy Chandler. It's Tommy Chandler's city attorney that's doing this.
Right.
So Tommy's saying he supports term limits as well too. And I mean, you know what, Tommy? You campaigned on it, you felt strong about it, but you are allowing this delay. You're allowing it.
Right.
Say what you want to say, and yeah, you signed the petition. I mean, good job, but you know what? You're the mayor of Bossier City, and you're allowing your city attorney to do this.
Yeah.
So
It's no different than, look, I
so
appreciate what Chris, I appreciate the way Chris Smith voted, and I appreciate Chris Smith's stance on term limits and his help to get signatures and all that. But unfortunately, Chris and Tommy both could take a lesson on using the microphone and, what we call the bully pulpit to put a little more public pressure. I'm not saying you have to even be rude about it, but put a little more public pressure on the city attorney and everybody else to actually do this.
now Mark Smith chimes in again and says shenanigans across the river are because of term limits. Okay, Mark. Well, I'm just curious. Is it because of the lack of term limits that we don't know about the shenanigans in Bossier? Or because there are shenanigans, Rex. In fact, speaking of a historical shenanigan in the UL Coleman thing, and which has a place in today's discussion about Charles Jacobs, Vince Maggio, Tommy Chandler, and all the activities of the Bossier City Council today. So Jacobs went to the Bossier City Council, put this resolution forward, and Tommy supported it about getting an outside opinion on this. Well, I'll take any bets as to whether anybody believes that this quote unquote, what was it, unbiased, neutral opinion will come back in time for this to be on the agenda for next council meeting. It's not. I mean, the fact of the matter is it's not. This is part of Jacob's play to draw the whole thing out. But what I'm wondering is did anybody question Jacobs about this unbiased, neutral opinion that he was seeking to get?
I doubt it. I mean, in Tommy's defense, he did try to defend the term limits somewhat, but he just let Jeff Free run all over him in the meeting. I mean, y'all saw it. It's not just me being mean.
Well, here's what I want to know, Rex. So since Jacobs picked this Katie Bell and he jumped out there and he says, "Oh, it's this unbiased attorney and from New Orleans, it's going to give us a neutral blah 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 this." I wonder how Vince would feel if he would criticize it. Maybe I'm wrong for putting this out here and saying it. Maybe Vince is right. Maybe I'm not right. And if any of y'all
You're being divisive and causing dissension, Duke
yeah,
Lowry.
and if any of y'all watching this, you find this disturbing, that means you're the bad guy too, just like me, right?
Yeah. Well,
You're the bad
it
guy
must,
too.
yeah,
So
must be.
so Katie Bell, Rex, that name sounded familiar. And
Well, but wait a minute now. She's let's kind of go back down memory lane for just a second. So she is supposed to be unbiased and I would guess not have any professional sort of relationship with any of the parties involved.
well, that's what I think when he says unbiased. She's got no connection, nothing, whatever. So that's right. Ain't that what that's unbiased, neutral, no opinion, whatever that can just shoot you straight, right?
I'm no attorney like the infamous Patrick Jackson or Charles Jacobs, but that's what I would think.
How do you think the council would feel if you learned that wasn't actually the case? That actually she does have a connection. I wonder how Tommy Chandler would feel if he learns that his city attorney picked somebody and said to the council and said to everybody in all of Bossier that I'm going to get you this unbiased level opinion, and you found out that maybe it's not. Would that get under your skin a little bit?
Well, it just may very well. Do we have any evidence or proof of this?
Well, a source dropped this little nugget on me, Rex. And
Mm-hmm.
let's go back in time, as Mark Smith likes to say, shenanigans in Shreveport. But let's go back to a Bossier shenanigan that, quote unquote, the public can't handle and is said to be sealed. But let's pull one of the documents.
Okay.
And,
Oh,
well, look right there.
Well, but that could be any Miss Bell.
It could be any Miss Bell, but the
But what
interesting
are the coincidences? What are the chances of a coincidence like that?
Well, here's the interesting thing, Rex. I mean, Miss Bell worked for the Keene Law Firm. She went there in 2005. And as you can see, this was in 2012. And this was the deposition of David Montgomery. And you know what? The Keene Law Firm was not listed as being the law firm representing the city or any of them against Mr. Coleman.
So that would leave her as possibly representing David personally, maybe? Or one of the other people there.
It was indicated to me that in fact she was his personal attorney. He paid for his own attorney and had his own attorney in there. Don't get me wrong, the city had their law firm in there, but she was David Montgomery's attorney.
Well, and look, that's fine. I mean, I'm sure he would want to have his own legal counsel present, but that's odd that.
And that's fine that he did, but it's odd that he's got a Miss Bell right there. And in all the depositions, the only place you see Miss Bell pop up is in David Montgomery's deposition. And specifically, when we're talking about the content of the former city attorney, Jimmy Hall, and whether or not he gave Councilman Montgomery advice or not on ethics of all things.
Well,
and she's objecting. She's objecting. You see right here, objection to the extent, that this is outside the scope of the 30B deposition.
Well, what are the coincidences? Maybe Jacobs just overlooked this.
Maybe he didn't know, or maybe he did know, and maybe his boss, the king, told him, this is who you're going to hire. So here's my question. Did he lie to the council? Did he lie to the mayor?
Oh, surely he didn't. He did it on public record.
Well, here's the other thing. What about King David? Did he not have an obligation to say, if this was his personal attorney, did he not have an obligation to all of his other fellow councilmen, including Vince Maggio, who is against dissension and division and all that? I mean, I'm wondering, Vince, would you find a problem with that maybe you were deceived, or maybe that's a piece of information that you should have been allowed to know in your consideration? I mean, I'm just saying, if this is accurate,
right? If it's accurate, look. If it's not accurate, prove us wrong. There's proton mail. There's proton mail. You can come on the show. It doesn't matter, and we could be wrong.
But we're the bad guys.
Right.
We're the bad guys.
We're trying to stir we're trying to stir the dissension and the doubt. We are amateurs. We're cockroaches and cohorts.
Yeah, but we're wrong here. We're the bad guys. I don't know. So we sent a public information request specifically regarding the receipts for any legal services in the Link Coleman, and Charles Jacobs gave us the typical response of, no, just wait 30 days, 60, however long he put. I mean, we won't get it. We won't get it until the issue is over with. Yeah, until after they've already missed the deadline to get this on the November ballot. And that's the whole goal of Charles Jacobs, is to prevent this from getting on the ballot in November. And so either Vince Maggio and Tommy Chandler, Tommy Chandler is going to let his city attorney derail this and there's no other way to paint it. He is going to allow Charles Jacobs to do this, or, uh, Vince or none of them are going to stand up and fight what they say they believe.
So, what can the average Bossier watcher, we've got 80 something, well, I guess if you include Twitter and all that, probably over 90, 100 people watching right now. What can the average Bossier watcher do about this other than just being pissed off?
Greg Bell says, but she makes some really good sweet tea. Was that out of the Superman movie, I think?
Might have been. He also said above that she is no relation to him. Okay. So, third cousin twice removed, blah, 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 I guess, or whatever. But in all seriousness, what can the average Bossier watcher do? I mean, what do folks need to do to help push the term limits forward?
The only thing I know that they can do, but it's beating a dead horse, is to, call those councilmen. David Montgomery, he doesn't care. He doesn't give. I'm going to insult a lot of y'all, and I'm sorry, but he doesn't give a squirt of piss about all of you that live in Bossier City. He doesn't. He could care less. Jeff Free, he showed, and I've known Jeff, a long time, but the arrogance that he showed at that last council meeting just says to me that he doesn't care about the people that live in Bossier City. I don't, arrogance. The arrogance of those guys sitting up there just blew my mind. The only
the disdain, the dissension that they are trying to put among the ranks of their constituents.
So I don't think it even matters to call those guys. They don't care. They didn't care about you yesterday, and they're not going to care about you tomorrow. I think Bubba Williams, he cares about the city.
Yeah.
I think he does. I really and truly believe that. I've known him forever too. I think Darby, they truly love the city. And, I think Vince does too. I think those are the guys that probably they need to hear from you the most and bend their ear. And if I was Bubba and I was Darby, they shouldn't look at the term limits thing as an affront to them, because it's not. It's not at all. I think they should look at it as them controlling how they go out when they go out. That they set the tone, and they set the city and the future of the city up, moving forward.
All right, so while you check that message, I'm going to roll this video from our good friend David Johnson from this morning. Take about a minute.
We had in the last election, we had 2 council members run on the fact that they were for term limits, and it was a grassroots campaign. They were outspent handily and still won their election. And it was because of the people getting on the ground, knocking on doors and talking to people and asking them, taking the time to understand what the people of Bossier City wanted. They want term limits. Obviously, we have over 2,900 signatures here, and we're tired of the stagnation and the spend in this city. We need to have changes. They come around every 4 years and they give you bullet points on things they're going to campaign on, 4 or 5 things at a time. You've got a phone number on those, you've got an email address. We need to, as citizens in voting, do more than just go cast your ballot. We have to hold these people accountable because they work for us. And I think they've forgotten that in those chambers in there, David. I really do. It's sad, but I feel like they talk down to us, not to us. Is that how we feel, folks? They talk down to us. Here's the deal. We voted on it behind closed doors. This is what it is. Accept it, move along, and shut up, because we don't want to hear what you say. We don't care.
I mean,
amen to that.
Can't put it any better than that. Holly Cole has a comment. She says, that's exactly what I said moments after the meeting. Everyone who spoke were just minutes in the meeting, although I do believe Chris and Brian listened, and I believe they care. She brings up a good point. And again, it goes back to, I'm picking on Vince again, but, well, he put it out there, so he asked for it. He waited to the last paragraph of that whole spill to mention anything about the term limits that the people want. And I think it was Holly pointed out at the meeting that none of them had acknowledged that basically 3,000 people signed a petition, a legal, verified, validated petition for term limits. 3,000.
And it could have been a whole heck of a lot more than that. It could have been more than that. I mean, here's a valid question. What number of signatures of voters in Bossier City does it take for these councilmen to acknowledge it and take action on it? Or do you just listen to the citizens only when you need something from the citizens? You know, which is it?
Yeah. I mean, and look, you know,
Don't say you're supporting the citizens and
No,
you're
no, no, no.
representing them when you won't do their will.
Well, all right. So I'm gonna use a good example. I don't have the screen pulled up right now, but I put a post up or shared a post out on the Bossier Watch page about the DOTD having a public hearing deal in Monroe about adding another lane to I-20 east and westbound in the city of Monroe. And I shared the post out on Bossier Watch and put, hey, we're just waiting over here to get the I-20 to be fixed. Councilman Chris Smith, and appreciate him, shared out that, well, that's in place and they're going to start this year and all that. And I appreciate that, Chris. But till they actually get out there with the equipment and block off the lanes, I'll believe it when I see it, because we've heard this song and dance before. And I hope they start on it next month. But the point is that we're not here. This show has never been about showing the pretty flower garden. It's never been about that. We said it from day one, the first show. We're here to point out the things, these shenanigans that are going on in the local, city, and state government, and to bring those to light, because the folks don't have a platform to really talk about this. And in a lot of the meetings, they get shut down or point of ordered if they try to bring up a point or whatever. And for a lot of things, this is the only platform that people have. We're pretty darn, liberal in the comments. We pretty much don't censor anything unless it's obvious trolling, and let people have their say.
Yeah, and Rex, if they have a different opinion, like Vince, if he disagrees with our assessment of his comments, first off, let me say, I don't believe he wrote that. I don't believe he wrote that.
Well, I don't think he did either.
If he disagrees with our judgment on or our assessment of his comments, just like every other politician that we talk about, even Juliana Parks, if they want to come on this show and we're going to argue right back with them. We're not going to just let them run over us. I mean, but if they want to come on and defend their position and explain it, transparency. We keep hearing transparency in every one of our government entities, but yet they try to do the opposite. The police jury, they conduct not all their business, but a lot of it in committee meetings. Why do they do that? Because it's not televised and the public can't see it. Do they have a lot of business that they do? Yes. Would it be a cumbersome meeting to have it there? Yes. And argument and debate out in the public, would that get kind of ugly, and can it get gritty? Yeah, actually it can. But you know what? That's what needs to happen sometime. And if you're in politics and you think that there shouldn't be disagreement and there shouldn't be debate, you're in the wrong game. You shouldn't be in politics.
Yeah, I don't want to see groupthink in virtually every city council and police jury meeting and pick your governmental or bureaucratic entity. For the most part, I don't want to see groupthink in that. And again, to Chris Smith and Brian Hammond's credit, last meeting they absolutely broke ranks with the rest of the city councilmen. So I don't know. And look, here's the other thing too. Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter are all platforms, not just for us. We've encouraged anybody to get out there. If you have a voice and want to speak, reach out to us. I'll tell you exactly how we do it. I mean, it's not hard to do. You can do it completely free. You can use cool software like we got. I'll be glad to help you. But you know what's interesting, Duke? The politicians have that same microphone. They can get their message out too. Chris and Brian do a good job of it on social media. They're all over the SWEPCO thing. When the storms are here, they're all over that, trying to keep people informed because social media is the normal way to do that these days. But the point is, and I'll get off my soapbox, the point is they all have a platform. And yes, Greg, I'm sorry, I meant X, not Twitter. That is old school, I guess now. Saying Twitter is old school. No more Bluebird. Anyway, but they all have a platform. They can get out there and criticize us just as much as we criticize them, or they can talk about the beautiful flower garden and how great it's going to be when I-20 is finally fixed. That's fine.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And on this term limits thing, I'm going to say one thing. If you say that you serve the citizens of Bossier City, and then you say it's disrespectful for the citizens to petition to get legislation passed in Bossier that you won't bring on their behalf, that is the height of hypocrisy. I mean, it doesn't get more hypocritical than that. You arguably do not deserve to represent the people that you say you represent. You don't deserve it. You don't.
Yeah. And look, I'm not faulting Vince for his stance because he is obviously not for term limits in spite of what he kind of tried to say in that post. And he has every right to be against term limits. I mean, there are valid arguments against term limits, but my belief is on balance, the arguments for term limits greatly outweigh the arguments against term limits, and so I believe in term limits. Vince has every right to not believe in it, but quit trying to serve waffles up out of your store, Vince.
Yeah, you got that right. So, hey, you do know that Keep Bossier Beautiful has, I think a sign contest for the new signs for Bossier City, right? Have you heard?
Yeah, I saw that. I don't have it queued up. It's funny that you mentioned that because I was driving from Shreveport across the Red River on 220 today, and I was noticing how tall the grass is. I mean, they've been pretty good about keeping up with the grass cutting, but the grass on the medians and on the shoulders is ridiculous. And I was thinking, here all this grass is, there's trash everywhere. They hadn't even picked that up lately. And they're worried about this blasted sign. What's your thoughts on the sign?
Well, I mean, look, I got to tell you, my choice of signs and which one I'm voting for, it's in. I mean, I'm pretty sure I know which one it needs to be.
Oh, okay. Drum roll, please. Which one?
Well, I'm trying to share my screen, but it won't come up.
Uh-oh. Take a screenshot and send it to me.
Well, I did. I messaged it to you.
Oh, okay. Hold on.
I think I think this is the appropriate sign. I mean, and I'm going to vote for it. I'm going to vote for it.
So
and me and Jacobs will agree on this.
Yeah, let me build the suspense for just a minute as I switch screens around and get this queued up. This is pretty good, Duke. I have to give you credit here. So let me click that and click that away and click that away and drag this over here and blah, blah, blah. Yeah, I got to agree with you, Duke. What was that, sign number 10 or whatever in their list of signs, possible signs?
Yeah, I think it was. So y'all all need to go in and cast your vote for My City, My Sign. Welcome to Bossier City.
Exactly. King David's. All right. So y'all let us know in the comments what you think of the signs that the Keep Bossier Beautiful deal has posted. And I got to say, Duke, I think that's a late entry into the sign contest, but hey, y'all vote for Duke's sign too.
Mark Smith says maybe his constituency doesn't want term limits. You can't tell him what he's for.
Well, true, Mark, except
Yeah, that would
Go
be
ahead.
great, Mark, if he would just let his constituency vote on it.
Yeah, exactly.
Let them vote. Let them vote on it.
We can already tell him that pretty much based on the numbers, the majority of them are going to be for it.
Yep, he knows it, and Mark Smith knows it as well.
Yeah, the math doesn't lie. Hey, glad that I guess the police jury's got Patrick Jackson back, so they won't need Irwin up there advising them. I guess maybe at the next meeting they'll have him back. I wonder what he's going to have to say about the Robert Berry situation, if anything.
Well, once Robert gets appointed in the city of Bossier, back on everything will be peaches and cream, right?
Yeah, it'll be just back to normal in Bossier. All right, I'm out of stuff to talk about, Mr. Lowry.
Oh, yeah, we beat this horse as much as possible. Folks, we appreciate y'all watching, and a few tidbits that we did share out there with you. Pass it around and inform your fellow citizens, and call a few of the councilmen. Give them a piece of your mind that they're ignoring the will of the people, and that's how we get better government. They would have you believe that you just need to sit down and shut up. That would be the easy path, but we've took that path for a long time, and that's what's got us to this point right here today. So step up.
Yeah. And I'd like to think, I mean, we're still at over 100 people. We're what, an hour and 15 minutes into the show, hour and 12 minutes, whatever. Anyway, want to remind all of you, especially if you're new, if you've got something you want to share with us, bossierwatch@gmail.com. If it's something that you might want to remain a little anonymous, like our mysterious Mark Smith, there's always a Proton Mail, so go make your free Proton Mail account. Don't put any identifying information in that account. And if you want to even, be a little more mysterious, set you up a VPN. Proton VPN is a free VPN. They don't sponsor the show or anything like that, but it's a good choice to use. Anyway, make your free Proton Mail account. Send email to bossierwatch at protonmail.com from the email account that you create. And we do take a look at that. We get a lot of information shared there. Go visit our website. I'm in the process of revamping that along with our intro that we had tonight. Blah, 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 blah. I can't think of anything else to say.
And if you got some questions on subject matter, ask us a brief question. We want to try to work to inform people that may have missed shows and subjects that we covered in the past so that you'll know what we're talking about. Shoot us an email and we'll, do our best to shoot you an email back with a link to that show to where you can, learn about that subject matter a little bit.
Yeah, glad to have such a diversified audience, and we do appreciate all the comments that we get, even if you don't agree with us. And like you said earlier, Duke, all the politicians and bureaucrats are welcome on the show. That's all I got.
That's it. Appreciate y'all watching. Y'all have a good evening.
We're out of here. See you later, Duke.